Morning, Coach Robbie.
Happy Monday, man.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It is. It's been a long time. Been about 24 hours.
I know. It's a crisp Monday morning. And
whoa, winter is back full force for the next few days here.
Yep. Good running weather for me.
It is. It's well, I think it's perfect running weather for most people as long as it's not they're not compounded with like 9 inches of snow, which seems to be like the norm now. I think Allie was telling me yesterday that back in Kansas where we used to live, they haven't had something like a full week of school since like January 1st. Because they've had so much snow. And Kansas knows how to deal with snow. We're not talking like Nashville where it like has a chance of a centimeter of rain accumulation. They shut down for like 3 days. They know how to deal with it. So yeah,
they're
perfect.
Getting a little bit. Look, my buddy in Wisconsin's a teacher. He said they've had 12 days off this year for snow.
People are getting weak, man.
Soft. That is
people are getting soft.
I'm seriously. I remember maybe 5 snow days in my whole career in school,
yeah.
And we would get pounded.
It's like global warming, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, welcome.
It's like hand checking and.
It's like handshake. Stop. Welcome. Crushing Iron Podcast, episode 247.
You're right.
Monday, March 4th, 2019. 2.5 years running. Every Monday and Thursday. Holidays, some weekends, and everything else in between. And we appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for stopping in.
Yeah. Today we're going to go through your top 20 most dialed in specific transition skills to lead to your no, we're not going to do any of that. I got a few topics today. You got a few, and I feel like you do after this last weekend. Usually when you're around a race, you come back with a fury of theories and topics. And so before I dove in on mine, I wanted to give you a chance to toss in some subjects and topics.
Oh, thank you. First, I would like to, since we haven't talked since yesterday, man, we were in Chattanooga, for everybody who doesn't know. And that drive home yesterday was dicey.
Yeah, it was dicey at best. I was going to text you and tell you that there's really no point in you getting on the road because it was awful, but that would have been...
Oh, man.
That would have been dangerous for me to do, so I kept 2 hands on the wheel.
Good idea, dude, because right before you climb the mountain where you kind of curl around to the right and start going up.
Yep.
I was about 500 yards behind some car, and they just buried it into the guardrail and then did like 3 spins around and just sort of like linked back down into the middle of the interstate, sitting there perpendicular to traffic.
Jeez.
And I was like,
yeah, I was out.
I did. I was far enough away where I didn't feel like I was in danger of hitting anybody, but I was one of the first people that kind of was in the timing of it to stop and pull over, and there's another guy ahead of me, and he got out of the car, and we both sort of, but man, I'm going through my head, it's like my fear is all of a sudden, cars coming at you, and it's pouring rain and all this shit, and I started thinking about like Jim Boeheim hit that guy on the road with the icy conditions, and so I'm really careful here and looking at this traffic, and I'm ready to jump the guardrail into this big puddle. Man, I didn't know what to do, but finally, sort of a wall built up of cars that had stopped, so I felt like it was protected area, and then we kind of went out there, and it was a woman driving and a guy, and they were okay, and but they were parked in the middle. I'm like, you got to get off the road, because So their whole front end was like basically missing, the front left fender. But we kind of they just sort of drove. I said pull off the road, and they sort of pulled off behind me and got on the shoulder and everything. And I was like, you guys okay? And they said they're fine. And the guy gets out of the car in the passenger seat. He gets out of the car and he's on his phone and he's already calling somebody. And we're double checking and triple checking. And I walk by the guy and I'm like, you sure everything's cool? He goes, yeah, totally fine, man. I'm good, man. And this dude was reeked of pot, man. They were so baked. I think they were just totally baked, man. He was outside, and I could just,
oh, dude.
So I don't know. We made sure. I mean, they were totally seemed fine. I don't know. So we just got in our cars and there was debris all over. It was just scared the crap out of me. But hopefully,
Mike Tarrolly, first responder hero.
I'm a hero. Yeah, I'm a hero, man.
I mean, that's how most people want to play that card. I'm surprised you weren't blowing up the gram with selfies with the car crash, because people love to.
Oh, I know, dude. And
selfies
it's so funny that crossed my mind.
Yeah, it was like, look at me. I'm helping out this first responder hero, Mike Tarrolly. Well, I'm glad you made it home safe, because this podcast would not be the same without you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I was definitely another level of cautious after that.
Yeah, it was a dicey ride home.
Anyway, so just get back to the topics.
Besides your heroism, what else we can talk
besides
about
me
today?
maybe that's it. Just don't be a hero out there on the race course. Don't be your own hero.
Yeah, don't be your hero. Was that it? Just your
no.
Your selfless, humble, heroic self-promotion?
Just putting out the warnings.
Yeah.
No, I didn't really come away with anything too hard on that. I just it just got me a little pumped up, I got to say.
Okay.
It was nice to be around. I think that might be my lesson. It's just kind of nice to be around races, and you kind of it's sort of that you always kind of feel like you were in it. So that might be a good thing. You know what I mean?
I always feel like exposure to racing is a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it can also lead to very poor decision making. But I've seen many of people make very terrible decisions in the 12 to 24 hours within spectating a race, because they're super energizing. And if my wife ran the Erlanger half marathon there in Chattanooga, so we were there, and we have some athletes there, and obviously you and I were there, and running and I think just endurance sports in general are so fun to watch, because you see so many shapes and sizes and backgrounds and ages. I mean, you see everything. I mean, it is a melting pot sport. I mean, it's everybody in between. Mm-hmm. And I think it is. It's energizing to see people, and I think when you watch races and you go to events, for the most part, because you're still going to have, hopefully the minority or the abnormalities of people who go to races and just nitpick everybody else who's there, and wants to show up with like 16. They'll go to a running event, but they're going to wear like their Boston 2015 hat and their Boston 2017 jacket and their Boston 2018 sweatpants and their signature Nike Boston sneakers. Like, hey, I know you guys are out there running great, but have you seen me? I've done Boston 4 times. So nobody gives a shit about your race today. Take a look. I could race if I wanted to. Because I've done Boston, you see, hat, shirt, sweatpants, jacket, shoes. I've done it.
I love asking those guys, hey man, did you do Boston?
But I'm
did you do Boston, buddy?
Just not doing it this year. Just to take it anyway. So you're gonna have those people too, but the detractors. But for the most part, it's so fun, I think, because when you watch races, you never think about how well that person's doing, because you have no idea. Like for us, we knew one person on the course yesterday. Mm-hmm. Everybody else we saw, it was so joyful to watch, I think, just because you could see everyone else working. And you saw the smiles on their face, grimaces, and we saw, people at the start line, miles 4. We were at mile 4, 6.5, and then the finish line. And I think it's just a great reminder of why people race and push themselves in general. It's to get something out of it that means more to them than, did they, of course, are some people going to be disappointed or not disappointed because they PR? Yeah, but it's about pushing yourself. I think it's about pushing yourself and proving to yourself. And I think it's different for everyone, but I think it's so refreshing to go to an event where you're not attached to it. My wife didn't have like some, expectation goal. I mean, she had a guesstimate of where she would be, and she surpassed that. But other than that, it was just to go out and race and do her event and be happy with it. And I just think there's so much, like, there's just, it just creates. I can't stress enough how I feel like so many athletes are just losing the fun of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reminded of like the fun of this morning. I was going to drop off Hayden at school, and we got to this light. I look over, and there's this lady. She's probably, I don't know, 5'3", probably in her mid 50s or early 60s. You know, dressed up, you know, super like a snowman because it's so cold outside. And she's standing on the sidewalk waiting for the walk sign. And she looks like she's getting ready to grab the baton for the anchor leg of the 4x400 relay at the 2020 Olympics. She like
Intense,
her arm,
huh?
I'm telling you, like I wish I could have captured the visual, but her, you know, she's got her right leg out in front of her staggered. Her arms are down by her side, swinging. Her eyes are. I mean, I'm telling you, it was so awesome to see, eyes dialed in. And then as soon as that walk sign hit, she took off in the fastest 13-minute mile shuffle you've ever seen. It was so awesome. Just because you could just tell she was in she was in her own success story. And she didn't care. She didn't have any kind of like, you know, the ego radar that I think some people run with and train with all the time. It's like, who's watching me? Who's got their eye on me? Who's looking at me? What am I doing? Am I got my phone out? If that's like, but she was just out and focused on specifically tunnel vision on what she was doing, and was having a blast with it. And I just think that that's like something that we, in a sport where people act so freaking serious all the time, it's just so refreshing. And I just think it's something that we all need to be reminded of, is to just not take ourselves so seriously, and to remember that this is supposed to be fun, and to add things into our life that allow us more opportunities to have fun. Because, you know, for a lot of athletes, I know a lot of our listeners who have so many things going on in their life, like training is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be an outlet. It's supposed to be something that you look forward to, because the rest of your life, you know, it might not be not fun, but it's not like really fun. You know, you got jobs and relationships and kids and, you know, bill. I mean, it's like, it's everything. Like it's life. It's hard. And it's training and racing and these events and these experiences are supposed to be fun and bring value to our life. And I think that just the more and more you tend to like add these expectations and raise the level of seriousness to what we're doing, it just, you rip away the fun. I mean, you rip away the fun of it. And that's why you see so many people, I think, that have been in endurance sports for a long time and been in, you know, specific sports within like the endurance community, you know, gravitate in and out of triathlon to other areas, because they see it's, people just don't, they're so serious and they take themselves so seriously, and they forget that of like the hundreds of thousands of triathletes that are out there, there's probably like 30 on the planet that actually make any money off this thing. And the rest of us, we pay money. Like, I don't think there's nothing in my life that I pay money for to go and be really, really serious and not have any fun. Like, how horrible does that sound?
Yeah.
But we raise the level of every time you add something in an expectation, and the way you approach your training. It's just like, I think it's just healthy to ask you, when was the last time you had fun when you were training? When was the last time you had fun? And if it takes you a while to remember that, then I would suggest changing things up, or approaching it a little different, or going to group runs, or adding in something that makes it fun. And I get that it's not going to be the most exciting thing every single time, but you know, you have to have a certain approach to wanting to get better, all these kind of things. But just remember that to not take yourself so seriously, and to have fun and do things that bring a smile to your face, and encourage yourself, and just set yourself up for success when it comes to just making yourself happy when it comes to training. And again, I just think it just boils down to how serious we have started to take ourselves when it comes to the fact that we're all grown-ass adults paying money to do this sport, but we all act like we're professionals and we're getting paid to do this.
And why? Okay. I think numbers is a big part of this. You get something in your head, whether it be, I want to, increase my wattage by 20, or I want to do my half Ironman in 5:30, whatever, like 15 minutes faster than I did it last year. I want to do my full 25 minutes faster than I did it last year. So you're talking about 15 or 20, 25 minutes that sort of dictates the 6 months of training in your mind. It kind of gets in your head. So it's like, instead of, I went on a little bit of a rant after I did Louisville, and I was kind of like recalculating like the race and how maybe I dropped 2 minutes here and 2 minutes there and maybe 5. So, and I spent a lot of time obviously in the finisher chute, and that was actually amazing because we had so many people around and I had such a good time. What a good memory that is for me. And I did remember saying, well, if I hadn't have done that, I probably would have gotten like, moved up 3 slots or something like that, or, or whatever. It was like 2 minutes of screwing around, and that 2-minute difference would have made, but so what? If I would have moved up 3 slots, I wouldn't have remembered anything about that race. You know what I mean? It's there's, if you can have multiple experiences on a race course that are interactive, or just you're running maybe just 15 seconds slower per mile or something like that, but actually enjoying it versus trying to save 10 or 15 seconds and just hating every minute of it. And this of course translates to training and everything else. Yeah, that's maybe a way to kind of push yourself faster and everything, but is faster the end goal always? That's the question. I mean, and is that the best way always? Because I always think about, one of the things I wanted to talk about today was I went out running again yesterday after we did a couple of runs on Saturday. I just had such a great time. I've been having such a great time running lately, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm not destroying myself. And I think the time has paid off, and my patience with it is getting to a point where now I'm starting to notice little things, like, the end of the run, I'm not like just really struggling to get my knees up to get over these little, like a curb or something, weird little things like that. And it's just becoming more enjoyable. And I can't help but think that we go too fast or too hard sometimes, and then you get into a hole and you can't get out of it. And it's just a game of patience for most of us.
It's all patience, and kind of two things. One is like, when you're enjoying it and you're having fun, you do it more. And if you do it more, and as long as you're going slow enough to want to keep doing it more, you're going to gain fitness.
Yep.
It's like we always talk about this, like the one of the greatest kind of things that I look at as a coach is in terms of like how well you're succeeding or where your fitness is going to be or what your trajectory is. It's training availability. Are you available to train? And people always look at that. Well, that's injury or not injury. That's not always the case. Some people could be totally healthy all the time and lack the motivation or the want to emotionally and mentally to go out and do the training. And so you gotta have fun with it, and you gotta be emotionally and mentally stimulated. And so many times, like, our expectations and our seriousness totally numb us.
Yeah, for sure.
To that stimulation and to enjoy it, because we're always obsessed with our watch face or how we look, or does this person think I'm going fast enough today? Because what's going to happen? And I don't know if I can do this or not. It's like you just ripping it away. And I was reminded of this too, on the elevator at our hotel. Yesterday I was going to get bags, and this guy got on the elevator, and he had just grabbed a cart, and he was overweight, and he got on the cart, and he had just walked basically from like the elevator to go get the cart at the front door and walk back, and was so out of breath I thought he was going to fall over.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt so sorry for him. And then I also thought to myself, like, at the core of why I always want to be able to do things like this is because I don't want to ever feel like that. And that's not me, harping on or crushing this guy because he's overweight.
Nobody should think that.
Nobody should, but it's just that I just don't ever want to feel like my life and my health has deteriorated that much because of whatever reason. And if I'm lucky enough to be in a place now where I can be healthy and I have a choice and the opportunities to do things that make me healthy and I can have fun doing it when it's not a life or death situation, then what the hell am I doing not doing it? Like these things are fun and we do these events and we like to push ourselves, but like at the core of it, the people that want to continue to do it over and over and over again, it's because like you see what your life could be like if you don't do it. And I just think sometimes we forget how lucky we are to have these opportunities or to be in a spot where, and it's not necessarily being overweight, it's just that total lack of fitness. Because you can see a 90-pound lady that hasn't eaten in 5 days, she'll be huffing and puffing the same way. Mm. It's just that overall lack of fitness and the ability. And I was thinking about going upstairs and like the stuff I get to do with Hayden. I'm like, God, I would hate to not be able to do those things with him, because I like part of the reason I still do things and that sometimes that gets me out the door when nothing else will is, man, as Hayden grows up, I want to be able to hang. Mm-hmm. Like I want to be able to, like I want us to continue to be able to do things together, whether it's ride our bikes, go for walks, go for hikes, whatever it is he picks up, whatever he likes. I want to be able to do those things. And if I don't continue to take care of myself and I don't continue to do the basics, then I'm not going to have those opportunities. And you kind of touched on this, I think, when you're talking about running and like in these experiences and being able to do this and how much you're loving it, is that I think one of the biggest things that we fail to recognize when we start to take all these things so serious are, and you talked about your Louisville experience and how much of a memorable thing that was for you. And I think we even alluded to this back on the last podcast when we talked about what was your best effort, in terms of like how you see things. It usually wasn't maybe your best performance time-wise, but your best effort and the one you remember the most is when you just kind of stuck it out and made things work. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes we forget that what we end up taking with us are the experiences, the things that we remember. And if you're not open to soaking up those experiences by having fun, being present, enjoying your training or enjoying a race or hanging around post-race or just not being wound up so daggum tight that you couldn't take a crap if you wanted to on race week because you're so serious about the whole entire event that you don't talk to anybody, you don't socialize, you don't want to be around anybody, you don't look anybody in the eye, and you're missing out on like everything. Because I guarantee you, if you race that way, you're never going to perform. Like the greatest athletes on the planet will tell you, like race week, like you got to be loose. Yeah. You got to race free. You can't have all this tension and like it's like we take things so serious that it just drowns out and suffocates the fun and the experience out of it all. But like imagine the two different experiences these athletes are going to have, that one of them is so serious and so obsessed and is, got their iron out their calf sleeves on Wednesday and takes everything so seriously, and doesn't talk to anybody and is so obsessed with like meeting this expectation, this race time, and doesn't, so they're just singularly focused and they don't talk to anybody and they're just isolated. Then you got the other person who is loose and like, man, like I just can't wait to race. This is going to be fun. I get to do it with friends. Let's go out and have dinner with my team. Let's go enjoy myself. Let's push myself and let's just see where I'm at today. And then let's cheer other people on. Let's just have fun. And like, I'm going to remember most about this entire thing is the experience. And just imagine for a minute and put yourself in the shoes of those two different kinds of athletes. and what they're going to get out of it for weeks and months and even years is drastically different for both of them. And I just think that we forget. I've forgotten many times in the past, like especially long ago. I would lose sight of the big picture of it all. And I think the more things that get added to your life in terms of, the stages of your life or the seasons of your life or whatever, reminds you of like why, like your things that are really, really important tend to shift. And, when we had Hayden, everything shifted for me and why I want to do things and how, and what is performance for me, like totally changed. And it's, I think if you don't open yourself up to looking at your life and thinking like, what is it exactly that I want to take with me from this sport and from this training? Is it like, what do you want to take? Do I want to like be concerned with what my watch says, or do I want to walk out the door with you at the Hampton Hotel on a Saturday and take Hayden with me in the stroller and us run up and down the Greenway for 4.5 miles without even looking at our watches and talking and chatting and enjoying the scenery? Like, if I had been an athlete who was more concerned with my Strava and what people were going to see and meet at a specific pace, I would have gone out with earphones and wouldn't talk to anybody. But like it's the experiences and like the things that you're going to remember, and you're never going to remember anything except for the I didn't, or the I couldn't, or I didn't do this, or the buts that we all attach to every single race. And if those are the things you remember, I know, and I get it, like the greatest coaches of all time will be like, hey, what do you remember the most? And they always say like the losses. That's what burns them the most. It's like, I remember back when we lost this, and this, and I just don't. We're not in that space. Like, that isn't our life. And I just think that we'd all do a good service to ourselves by remembering why we're doing these things, and just to remember the experiences that we're going for, and not to be so self-critical and serious all the time.
Yeah. Because the more you're hanging around it, the more you're in the sport, you forget that there's really a lot of joy, or there should be, in the ability to do this stuff. And, I see people that had an hour and a half run scheduled, for example, and then they put in their, I could only, at 1:15, that was all I had. I'm sorry, that was all I had. I said, you just ran an hour and 15 minutes. Think about how many people can't do that. Probably most.
Yeah, can't run 15 minutes.
15 minutes. 1 mile.
5,
That's
maybe.
why we always say, go run a mile. Just go run a mile and feel good. If that's all you got in you, just try and get out there and run like a half mile. Because you're right, man. It's like, just, because we get into that thing about, I was supposed to run 10 miles today and I can only run 7. My back's sore. And you start bitching about little things that are kind of byproducts of training hard or whatever, versus the guy who, I can't even get off my couch. I mean, think about think about what you've got going here. And that's why we always talk about patience too, I think, is because it's a continuum. Once you get moving, once you kind of get into the sport and you start changing things around, you can't be at the top like this year or next year. Or, I'm still learning. This is the 7th year I've been doing this now, and pretty much all on for 7 years, and I continue to learn things. And the more I learn, the more I learn to pull back, and the more I learn to listen to my body and really put stock in that idea of feeling good and enjoying it. And I'm still not there. I mean, I think the reason we keep pumping this up is because a lot of times we're sort of reminding ourselves too, because it's so easy to get out of that place and get stuck in the numbers and get stuck in the, oh man, I didn't improve since last week. Oh yeah, well, I mean, like, how many different things could have happened? And then you could do nothing and improve in the next week. So you just don't know. It's such a variable. There's so many variables and things we can't control and things we don't understand about why we're getting better. But we just know, like you said earlier, that if the more you do something, the better you get at it, as long as you don't overcommit kill yourself along the way.
Well, and it's I think it's just also like it comes down to it like where is your self-awareness? And I think we take for granted sometimes our journey in that we either want to some athletes want to take a shortcut through their journey, and when the journey is what you get the most out of, not the end result, or you have people who obsess and take the whole journey so seriously that the end result is just a completion and not something that affects the rest of their life. And I just think that, like you were saying, I think sometimes we just forget that we are anybody who can do this. Like, I think that's one of my favorite things. I think is that everybody should always go out and watch like a 5K or a 10K. Like, there's these short events where, and there are many people who have been in this. I mean, I was in this category, when I first got into endurance sports. Like, I could barely swim 2 laps of the pool, and I think we just lose sight of where we were.
For sure.
And I think we just that tends to always lend to a lack of appreciation for where we are. And while you shouldn't live in the past, but dear God, appreciate how far you've come, and don't let your obsession with where you want to be in the future just erase every single second of training and experience or race or whatever it is you do in the present. Because so many athletes miss so many opportunities every single day and every single month of the year because they don't remember how far they come. They don't appreciate it all the time because they're just solely obsessed with why am I not at this level? Why am I not pushing this many watts? Why am I not running this pace? Why am I not getting faster? And it's like, take a look and look how far you've come. And if you've already come this far in X amount of time, who says you're not going to continue to go this far the rest? But like once we like start to sniff what it feels like to succeed or to reach a level, our brain totally switches it from where it used to be. It used to be, man, I'm just going to keep working hard and just see what happens. And I'm trying to lose weight, or I'm trying to increase my fitness, or I'm trying to swim my first lap, or do my first open water swim, or run or ride my first century, or run my first 10K. Like, remember how you approached it on those firsts?
Yeah.
Like the attitude and the gratitude and the appreciation and the self-awareness like we all have for those things is totally different once you've been there.
Yep, the curiosity.
Yeah, it's just like
the childhood curiosity almost. Oh, it's so,
and the fun of it.
So fun.
That's another thing you can see on people's faces when they race, and I get it. Like I'm not telling you shouldn't race, and be going for goals every time, or all the time, or even once. I'm just saying that just like remember at the core of it that like guess what, you might not always get to do this. You something might change, and we should all remember, I think, and be grateful to the fact that it's something that we get to do and that we have chosen to do. And that there's probably very few things in life where you would say, all right, tell me what other area of life you choose to take to 8 to 12 hours a week out of your time, spend a lot of money on things, and obsess about it to make sure that you don't have fun and continuously feel like you never meet your expectation. Tell me all the other areas in life that you do that with. Zero. At least I hope so, dear God.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot that.
But it's so like take it in erase triathlon to it, and then it's like working your own life budget. Like when it comes like where you put your energy and your time and your finances. And if you like took triathlon out of like your budget and you saw how much money you were spending on it, and then you saw, what was my emotional and mental return on my investment for triathlon this year? And you look back and I didn't do this and I didn't do this and I didn't meet this expectation. I got to do better. How many years did that got to go by until you make a change? Not the financial change, but what is your definition of a mental and emotional and return on your investment. And I think sometimes that's where everything gets so out of whack for so many athletes. This is like their expectation is a finite digital return that they can see that is tangible that I can show. And I'm telling you right now, having been in the sport for over 10 years and coached hundreds of athletes, that no athlete is ever going to, at least most athletes are never going to say, you know what, let me show you my best result, my best day ever. They're going to say, let me tell you about this. And it's going to be experiences and difficult races, and none of it is going to, not none of it, but most of it isn't going to be, let me show you this time and this medal. It's going to be, let me tell you about this. And if you're too focused and you're too just kind of laser dialed in on not having fun, yeah, goals are important. You got to be disciplined in so many areas, but it's not 24/7. You got to be able to have fun. You got to be able to approach it this time and focus on everything that has to do with longevity and making sure that you're having fun with it.
You know, I think about an analogy sometimes, and we've used the college studying for finals analogy before, and I like to think about sometimes if you think about maybe training for your first, because everybody says that, or not everybody, but a lot of people I know say that, man, the college was the best time of my life. You know, I had the most fun. It was a blast. We just did stuff and, you know, kind of did what we wanted and just had a good old time in college and everything. And then once you graduate from college, I like to almost analogize that to finishing an Ironman. It's sort of like you kind of feel like you did it. You know, it's like done. It was like something big deal. You got your degree, you got your medal, whatever. And then it's sort of like, now what? Because then you got to grow up and then everything gets serious, sort of. But there's a lot of life left after. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just beginning. And that doesn't mean that like college is the cutoff for having fun. And it's almost like we, you know, kind of turn in our kid papers and it's like, all right, we've had our fun. Now we got to grow up and be responsible and like just like go to work and hit the numbers. That's all we do at work too, is hit the numbers. And then we got to hit the numbers on the course. And it's like, take that out of it. How can you have fun? I mean, how can you get some of that sort of, you know, we'd spend hours making up stupid, you know, basketball games or creating like anything to just sort of just have fun. And I don't remember any of the scores of any of that stuff. It was just sort of like, you remember when we made a basket out of like whatever or what, you know, just sort of doing stuff in your backyard and goofy things. And then there's just so much of that that's just left on the table, I feel like, after that period of time, like, you know, and that's part of it is why we want to do this, is to feel younger and feel better every day. And there's no reason to go beat yourself up and work yourself into a grind every day at work and then just double down on it by doing something that makes you feel even more tired. I keep going back to, I think it was 3 or 4 podcasts when you said that, you know, you can't have motivation without energy. And to me, that just rings so true. It's like you can have all the desires and time goals and all these other things that you want in your life, but if you don't have the energy to pull that together, it's just going to be a mountain of frustration and probably depression and who knows what else along the way, because we have to figure out ways to sustain and build energy. And as I always say about that quote I love is, you know, exercise is supposed to give you energy, not take it away. And there's so many opportunities to walk away from the course when you're feeling good rather than spend another 20 minutes, or not the course, but the training course, beating yourself up and then just, you know, missing the next 4 days and then feeling like you're in this weird cycle of I can't get it going. It's not fun anymore. Nothing's fun. Nothing's going to be fun when you're tired.
Nothing is fun. Nothing is fun when you're tired.
Or especially overtired. I mean, even sleep is fun when you're overtired. You can't get to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just something that, like, I think we all notice this or are aware of this in our regular day-to-day life. You know, are you, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? The old HALT thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like one of the things they always tell you to be really wary about when you're in recovery is like, if not the hungry part, but if you're well, I mean, yeah, but if you're lonely and tired and angry, like something's off. Something's not right. And it's no secret that they use like isolation and sleep deprivation as like levels of torture. So there's reasons they do that, and there's reasons that it works. And there's a reasons, like when you have a baby and you get like no sleep, that like you're a totally different person sometimes when you're going on like 2 hours of sleep than you would be if you got 10 hours of sleep. And like the different the different levels of like your emotions and your mental state. So like I think sometimes we like to pretend like our triathlon hobby is in like a totally different world, and that we forget that like the same lack of sleep or lack of energy or being so overly tired or not fueling ourselves appropriately, like those aren't going to have negative effects to our entire life, and who you are or how you are outside of training. And because it's all part of your life. And I think that it's just sometimes, again, like you forget, because we're all control freaks, that is that if you're constantly draining it and you're constantly not fueling yourself properly and you're wearing yourself down, then you've got to be miserable. Like, I don't care if you don't think you are, you're definitely not functioning at as high of a level as you could be. You definitely can't be as happy as you probably could be if you were getting more sleep and less tired and fueling yourself properly and not absolutely beating yourself to the ground. Because when you beat yourself into the ground and you train hard all the time and you deplete every part of your life, mentally, emotionally, physically, around your training, around your obsessive to training, and you got to sneak things in and you can't miss a session, like where is the value? It's like being at the training poker table and you lose a hand. You're like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna double down this time. And you go and you lose again. You're like, you know what? Let me take some more money. Let me double down. So eventually, I got to get it back. I'm gonna keep going all in until and I'm gonna keep losing until one time I get lucky and I win. And then that's a person that goes bankrupt. And goes out with huge amounts of debt. And we do that so many times in our life when we fail to recognize the signs that we should see every single day or week to week or month to month, that what we're doing isn't actually filling up our cup or fulfilling specific aspects or parts of our life to give us mental energy or emotional confidence or rejuvenation or bring good characteristics back from our life that we wanted from a different time, and increase our self-fitness. And like, oh wait a minute, this is something that's supposed to make me physically fit, yet I'm not making sleep a priority, I'm not making fueling a priority, and I'm smashing myself into oblivion every single day just for the sake of I feel like I got to do X, Y, and Z. Tell me again how that's supposed to help you overall health, like mental and physical health. It's not. You're just beating yourself to death. And it takes a lot of self-restraint and a lot of self-awareness to be like, you know what? Maybe it's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. You're just going to keep doing it until something breaks. Because I gotta fit it in. If I don't fit it in, then why am I even doing this? And it's like, dude, just remember why we're doing this. That's supposed to, give you energy. And yeah, are you going to be tired after a workout? Sure. But if it affects your mood, and I mean, I think every athlete in a certain way has gone through like, the taper version of being like hangry and grumpy.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're tapering, you start working out less, and all of a sudden you're like your mind is like totally warped and you're just cranky all the time, either in the late stages of training because you are a little more tired, or when you're tapering and it's like, wait a minute, just 1 second, why am I feeling like that in March? And I think it just takes a lot of confidence again to be able to step back and do these things and to make sure that you're executing your training in the best way that fits your life to add value and not be a constant battle of what am I really actually getting out of this? Because I'm tired or I'm exhausted or I'm not meeting my expectations. So like what's got to give here? Because things just aren't adding up to a net positive for me right now.
And I think it's also important to, if you're not hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, that's good. It's okay. You know, I feel like sometimes we get in our head, or, you know, that the nature of pursuing these sports, sometimes these endurance sports, the Ironman distance, it's you know, some of us have to battle the fact that maybe we don't have to make this punishment. Do you know what I'm saying there? Sort of like we get into this and we feel like we have to be hungry, angry, lonely, and tired because that's how we get better and that's what we deserve. And that's that's because this is hard. We're going to make this tough all the time. And if it's not tough, then we're not winning.
That's the biggest argument.
Yeah.
That's the elephant in the room. That's every athlete the last 6 weeks they're training. Man, so-and-so just did a 100-mile ride and an 18-mile run. I just don't feel like I'm doing enough. Like, I feel good. Like, why these people are saying like they're all worn out and tired and like they are doing these epic days and they're trashed. And I'm like, yeah, that's not how it's supposed to be. Like, again, we've fooled ourselves into, you know, like, just think again, like when I say like take the label of triathlon out of it and apply it to the rest of your life and be like, wait a minute, does this make sense? And so take that same application or analogy to like your job, and like you see Joe Schmo, you're making more money than he does, you're producing more, you're happier with your life and your job, and you're doing it on 40 hours a week, and you look over and you're like, oh dude, Jerry's putting in 60 hours. And he's got the same, conference that I do in 2 weeks, the same presentation just after mine. Like, he's putting in 65 hours and he looks stressed and he's worn out. Like, maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe I should go back to the office and put in an additional 20 hours. I'm like, dude, you're exceeding like all of your sales projections every single month and you crush them. Why do you would you do that? No, you wouldn't do that. It just makes zero sense. But we always fall into that trap when we go back to like the more is more is more is more is more. It's like for some reason we've succumbed to the belief that pain and almost like not depression, but like pain and suffering is like a badge of honor that you must go through every day through some facet of your life. And in training, if you're not crushing yourself every single time, that it's not worth doing or that you're doing it wrong. And that couldn't be further from the truth. But it plays games with your psyche when you're training and things are going athletes, things seem to be going a little too good right now. I'm like, yeah. Like, if that's like, I think one, that man. Like, it's God, like, dude, so like, weird. Shut your mouth. Like, it's like we have this obsession of like, why things have been going good. All right, coach, I'm healthy. We're progressing. I'm getting fitter.
Give me more.
I can't stand it. Give me something that's going to break me. Give me something that I'm not going to be able to accomplish. Give me something that's going to get me injured. Give me something that's going to really push me to my brink. Let's do that, because God forbid we actually do this in a progressive, timely manner that can actually keep me healthy and fit and excited about training all the time. What the hell is that? It's like this ebb and flow of like athlete self-sabotage that is definitely one of, I think, a coach's like biggest frustrations. And like, why do we, like every other aspect of life, you wouldn't even like think of doing this. Hey, yeah, my kid's in daycare and he's doing really, really well. He's exceeding, all of the expectations. He's having so much fun. He's having a blast. So happy. It's all good. We should definitely change schools. We should definitely take him out of daycare and place him in another one, just because maybe he's not getting enough. But it's just that obsession with. I don't even think it's our obsession with change. I think it's our addiction to disruption. Because we would much rather be reactionary because it feels like it gives us a purpose to cause disruption, and then we have to be reactionary to that disruption. So now I can be in charge of the action, when all you're really doing is you just dropped your coffee on the floor and cleaned it up and gave yourself a pat on the back. It's like you made your own mess, so you gave yourself an opportunity to clean it up, and now you're congratulating yourself for doing something productive today. That ain't how it works. You don't get props. I mean, ask my wife; she'll tell you that. I want to get props for cleaning up my own messes, but that's how our approach to training is. And for so many athletes, when they things are going a little too good, why don't we just spill it? Because then I got to work on cleaning it up, and that'll give me more control over it. It's we want more control over the comeback or cleaning up the mess than we do of just the act of just not making one in the first place, not making a mess of our training in the first place. And it's harder to do the more data driven and the more, I think, competitive drive you have, because control is something that so many athletes want. And a lot of times an athlete will unhealthily or strategically let their ego come into play and take a huge risk on just giving themselves the ability to show control by skipping a workout or going way too hard or adding 5 extra intervals or running for an extra 45 minutes. Because I got this. I got this. I can do it. And then you usually find yourself back into, okay, well, now we have to, now I gotta take the reins from you, and and let's get this back to where we're happy and healthy again. Because God forbid we be happy and healthy and not have injuries or feel overtrained and feel totally trashed. Who wants that? And again, that all leads to why specific types of athletes take this level of pressure into these races, because now I have to validate. Race day is time to validate all the time I skip these family functions, all the times I chose to go on a bike ride instead of go to my son's soccer game. It's going to be, I got to sacrifice all the meals that I skipped and all the cookies I didn't eat to maintain my race weight. I got to validate all the times I, took my bike on vacation and biked 4 hours when my kids are playing on the beach. Now I got to validate all the early mornings at 3 a.m. when I should have slept 2 hours and worked out later. I got to validate all the things that I removed from my life and remember how tired I was? I mean, I that's got to mean something. So I got to make it worth it today. And can you, I can feel it just talking about it. Can you imagine the amount of pressure that you now have to basically show your hand on race day that it was all worth it? See, I told you so. It was worth it. Can you imagine the amount of tension and anxiety and stress that athlete is now going to have to perform on race day? It's enormous. And then what they get out of it? Instead of just proving or meeting an expectation or coming close to it of nothing that was good. Instead of the athlete that feels like they did it the right way and they got to the start line healthy and happy, and it's like, hey, baby, it's time to let it fly. Let's just see where I'm at today, and let's have fun with it. And those are two of the most common. That's A and B. The most two common types of athletes. Yeah, there are definitely some that fall in between, but there are the most two common types of athletes on race day. When you walk in transition, you're standing in line for the swim, and you can see it on people's faces. What are you thinking about? Are you thinking about how much fun you're going to have? Or are you thinking about, man, I hope this was worth it?
Yeah.
It's I think it's just a really important conversation to have with yourself. Again, as we get closer to the race season, it's when things are probably going to heat up, it's remember, what's it going to be about? And if it's going to be about, in order for it to be about something on race day, you have to make your training be about it beforehand. And, surround yourself with people or coaches or whatever groups that I think remind you to not take things so seriously, which is the opposite, I think, of what most athletes see as a coach. They're like, your coach is going to push you to the next level. I'm like, no, dude, coach is to like help you chill out.
Right. Yeah.
Like help you realize that, dude, skip it. Like
we've got this thing, man, that no pain, no gain thing that just has, I think it really just sits around and kind of has its way with people still. And I almost think that we need to reclassify levels of pain and things like that, because as you train for triathlon, as you get older, there's different, like if you go out and just do an easy run of 5 miles or something, and it feels good, when you get done, you're gonna, if you look hard enough, you can feel a little bit of pain, a little bit of swelling. Most people, I think that, but we have to feel the extreme of it sometimes. And when we were younger, there was that big thing about, man, but it's a good sore. I feel I'm sore, but it's a good sore. And those good sores don't happen as much anymore because, we're not as resilient or whatever the case may be. So we have to realize that, there is some probably logic behind the idea that pain equals gain. There's some stressing in the muscles and things like that, and that's how they get stronger and whatever. But overstraining and overpaining, those are the killers.
Yep.
And that, I think, to wrap this up into what you were just saying about the race and the stress and the pressure of all that stuff, that's so excellent, because those mentalities and that mindset of going into a race relaxed, start today with how you handle this training, run or ride or swim or whatever. You have to go out and have fun and find that level of pain that isn't going to crush you, but it's going to move you forward just a little bit. And you got to do that same thing tomorrow.
And the next day.
And the next day. And that's how you build it in, because you're right, man. You go in there and you see the stress. And I've felt that, obviously you have too. You've put a lot of weight on some of these races for what? It's like you may go out and hit your number and people have no idea what that number was, but you put like a mountain of weight on it because you think everyone in the world is watching your times with a critical eye as to, he should have done better. He was like 10 minutes slower than I thought he was going to be.
Yep.
Big deal.
Big deal.
But that goes back to what I was saying, is like if you would have taken a little bit more time, a little bit more under control, patience, and ran that race 10 minutes slower, you might have changed your whole attitude about the sport. If you were relaxed going in.
Yeah, and the eventual outcome.
Yeah, and the long-term gains of that. So,
the struggle is real.
It's food for thought.
Food for thought, man. Food for thought. We appreciate you listening. We also appreciate all of the solid feedback that we've gotten the last 4 or 5 episodes. We seem to be finally hitting our stride here, 250 something podcasts in.
Yep.
We're trying to negative split this thing. Started out slow, finished well. But yeah, we do appreciate that, and we've gotten a lot of good emails, text messages, Facebook messages, posts in our closed Crushing Iron Facebook group. So we appreciate, as always, the feedback. It means a lot to us, and to be totally honest, like that kind of feedback and those emails and stuff, like those mean more to us than an iTunes review. That we're making a difference and we're connecting with people and hitting the spot in terms of making some kind of a difference with people on a day-to-day basis, and which is why we're doing this. So we appreciate that. If you want more info on all the other things that we do besides this free podcast, you can go to crushingiron.com, find more information on our training camps, swim analysis, blog, training and coaching packages, and everything else we do. You can go there. It's our one-stop shop. if you have questions straight up for Mike about how to be a first responder hero, you can go to crushingiron@gmail.com and hit him up. And if you have any other things that you want to talk to me about not being a hero, you can go to c26coach@gmail.com.
A lot of pressure on being a hero.
Hey, man, you should have brought it up.
I know.
We'll see you on Good Morning.
Scared
Yep,
me.
and tune in tomorrow morning at 9 on Good Morning America. Mike will be on talking about his heroic interstate 40-yard dash. But no, we do appreciate it, and we will definitely check back in with the rest of you on Thursday.
Okay, everybody, thanks for listening to the Crushing Iron podcast. We will see you Thursday.